Hey guys, so this is how we're going to do our lessons. Since it's online, I still want to be able to discuss and talk to you about the processes and the vocab words and all the stuff that you're going to be learning in class. Now, a lot of the class is based on discussion and participation, so me just running through these without really talking and me trying to just cut to the short, sweet, to the point, these videos should only be about 10 minutes per week. So just watch these videos. At the very end, you will then need to go to the discussion. I have a prompt there. You will need to post to the discussion. You have your one post and reply to your two posts. And then you also need to go and there's an activity for you. And it's an independent activity. You can do it with a friend. You can do it alone. You can do it with whatever. I'll explain more of that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start the lesson for today. So what we're going to be learning about today is the communication process. Now, communication is everywhere around us. There's no way to escape communication, even if you are in solitude confinement. So if you're by yourself, you're still communicating with yourself. So communication is defined in a very big definition. So we're going to break it down for you so it's not a lot. And realize that normally when we do PowerPoints, I personally like to have less words on the slide. And that's how you should do it with your presentations as well. But with this, since it's online, I upload all of these PowerPoints to you online. And you will then can go and actually have the vocab words that I'm looking for on the PowerPoint itself. That is also a big reason why I am not doing short words and explaining it. I'm actually putting them up on the PowerPoint. So let's get started. To define communication, if you read along with me with PowerPoint, it is the process of creating and exchanging meaning through symbolism or symbolic interaction. So there's three big words in there that I want to define a little bit more. Process, meaning, and symbolic. Okay, so process. Process is the communication that is trying to move or change someone. Okay, it does not stand still. It's constantly going. It's a process. Okay, then going into meaning. Meaning involves thoughts, ideas, and understanding. So it's your ideas and your thoughts and everything that you have to try to get to a point that you understand and know. So that's what meaning is. And then symbolic. It means words through verbal or non-verbal behaviors. So how are you communicating? Is it through text message? Is it through face-to-face online classes? Is it just yourself? However it is, okay? So again, the definition of communication. The process, which is the moves and the changes. So the moving and changing of the creating and exchanging of meaning, which is your thoughts, ideas, and understanding, through symbolic, which is the verbal, non-verbal, the way it's actually communicating. Okay? So let's move forward. Okay? The communication process. With this process, there's a channel. So the channel is how you're communicating. This is voice, text, email, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Depending on how you're communicating. That is the channel, the line that you're doing it. Okay? The context. It's the people that it actually has there. So right now it's me to the class. So the channel for this would be online, video. The context would be me and you and your other classmates who are watching this video. And then the physical environment. Right now, I'm in a classroom with a PowerPoint, okay? But you might be sitting at home in your pajamas, eating cereal, watching this video. Or you can be just listening to your earphones really dark and your roommate is trying to sleep up there, something. But depending on the physical environment, okay? So the communication, a big part of it is the channel, context, and physical environment. Oh, and the climax, which is the influence of the atmosphere. So how it is around. Are you sick? Are you not feeling well? Are you excited? Is it a basketball game, a baseball game, football game? Is it a classroom setting? Depending on how it is, okay? Now, let's move on to the actual process itself. When doing this, there's a lot of different moving pieces because communication is constantly fluid. Communication is constantly going. So with this and all of these moving pieces, there's a lot of different things. But we're going to focus right now on two people, okay? So you have one person, two-person, called the sender and the receiver. Now realize, you might have one sender and multiple receivers. Currently, I'm sending to multiple senders or receivers right here. When the president does his address, he's one sender sending out to different receivers. So it does not always involve two people, but it can. You also can be both, the sender and the receiver. You can be sending messages to yourself. So let's start this out. You have one person right here. This one person then decides, I have a thought. They then need to encode the message into words. So they encode this message into words, to text, or however they're going. and then they send the message, which is through this channel, over to the receiver. When the receiver gets the message, they then have to decode it. So when they're decoding the message, that is the message itself, the process of them doing it. Okay? So the sender has an idea, thoughts. They encode it through the message to the receiver who decodes it. Simple, right? There's a little bit more to it. Sometimes we have something blocking us. There's communication barriers, also known as noise. So noise can be blocking the message. There's two different types of noise, internal and external. Internal is you might be tired right now, so it's hard for you to get the message because you're sleepy. You might be sick. You might not care. You might be bored and thinking about someone else or being somewhere else or doing something else, okay? And external, people clapping, people whistling, a pen clicking in class, anything like that, actual noise, the air conditioner, anything like that. So sometimes the message could be blocked by noise, or part of the message could be blocked. All of the message could be blocked, just a little bit, okay? And then finally, at the end, the receiver gets the message. And most of the time, it does not end there. Remember, it's a constant cycle. So to finish the cycle, the receiver then sends back to the sender something called feedback. And then it goes back and forth. Sometimes the receiver then becomes the sender with a new message. So the sender will send a message, and then it could be nonverbal or verbal cues back. And then the receiver can become the sender with a different question or something like that. But it's a constant circle. It's constantly going and never stopping, okay? So, this is it. The sender encodes a message, sends the message over to the receiver who has to decode it. There might be some communication barriers, also known as noise, internal or external, and then the receiver will then send feedback back, even if the feedback is a thumbs up or a thumbs down or, I don't know, away or something less appropriate, right? So this is the communication process. Remember this. You're going to be using it in the class a lot. You also might be using it for, I don't know, your participation grade this week. So make sure you have this down. Know it. You're going to need to know all of this stuff for your participation. We'll come back to this, okay? Now, going into more of the elements of the communication process. There are many different types of groups that you can have. Remember, when we go back, right here it just looks like there's two. But there's a little bit more than that. So, here's all the definitions of everything right here, okay? So if you need to know the definitions of what I just talked about, it's written. I wrote it on for you. Now, there's many different levels of communication. Again, we have two in the picture, but there's many different ones over here. Intrapersonal, interpersonal, small group, one-to-group, or public speaking, and then there's also mass communication. And I'm briefly going to touch on all of these, okay? Again, just very briefly. So, the 5 levels of communication, starting with intrapersonal communication. There's a lot of words up here, but basically intrapersonal is self-talk, self-to-self. It's when you're thinking in your mind. If you're laying in bed and you're thinking, ooh, I don't want to get up, or ooh, that smells like bacon. Should I get up for bacon? Yes, I should get up for bacon. Bacon's delicious. Everyone loves bacon. Am I saying bacon enough for you? Bacon. Okay. So then you're going to keep going, and it's just you talking to yourself. Another form of self-talk, which is definitely self-talk, is if you look in the mirror and it's one of those days like, you can do this, yeah, you can do this. That's self-talk. But it's also just in your mind when you're trying to go back and forth of trying to make a decision or trying just to do anything with yourself. Yourself talking to yourself is called intrapersonal communication. Again, intra with an A. Intrapersonal communication is self-talk. Moving on to the next one is interpersonal communication. I-N-T-E-R, not with an A. So remember, intra is self to self. Interpersonal is one-on-one. You talking to your mom, your dad, your best friend, your classmate, your teacher, whoever. But it's basically one-on-one talking, having that conversation, that communication between one-on-one. Okay? So, and then there are some examples that I've listed on there as well. Then there's small groups. Small groups anywhere. A lot of people say different things for small groups, but really it's anywhere between 3 and 8 people. Okay, so more than 2, which 2, remember, is interpersonal, but less than 9, because 9 goes into the other level. So it's just a small group communication. How does the communication function? This person's talking, are you talking? Are they the only one talking because they just like to talk a lot, or different things like that? So it is a communication within a group. It could be formal group or informal. A group of you hanging out, or you can be on a committee meeting. Doesn't matter. Small group is the 3rd level of communication. Okay? Again, examples. Okay, but with small groups, you also have to remember that there are norms. So they could be stated or implied. Like if you're working in a group work, it's implied that you will do part of the work. That's a group norm. Okay, it's implied that you will help out. Now, as most of you have probably already worked in groups, you know that it should be implied, but not all of your group members do it, okay? So some of it are stated, some of it are implied. And then there are roles. You have to identify what your role is. Let's go back to you doing a group project. If you are doing a group project and your role is to create the PowerPoint or your role is to type up the paper, that's your role. If you do not do the stated norm and you follow your role, your group could fail the paper or could fail the class or different things like that. So you have these roles that you identify with in your group, and you also have these norms that are stated or not stated in your group that you abide by, okay? Going into the next level, communication. This is one-to-group or public speaking. This is what this whole class is based on. Now, you're not really going to be public speaking a lot because you're going to be videoing yourself. But right here, it's just really 1 to 9+ people out. One person is talking to a lot of people. It's not a discussion. It's not something that's going. It's 1 to a lot of people. There might be different questions and different things like that at the end that's back and forth, but it's really just one having a big message sent out to 9+ people, okay? The next one is very similar, but it's a different way, okay? Is mass communication. So mass communication, as we know, could be television, radio, different things like that. It's 1 to thousands, to millions, okay? But the big difference between this one is a lot of the public communication is someone in the audience can stand up and ask a question, or someone in the audience can stand up and start yelling at you if they don't like you. But mass communication, there's not really any feedback. The only feedback is, let's say, Donald Trump is saying something and the people are feeding back with something on Twitter. That's their feedback, but they're not really giving feedback during his presidential address, okay? So, remember the difference between one to group and mass communication is the feedback, okay? So looking back at it, there are 5 different levels. Remember, intrapersonal is self-to-self, interpersonal is one-on-one, small group is 3 to 8, and then 1 to group is about 1 to 9+, and then mass is 1 to 9+, thousands, millions, but there's no feedback in it, okay? And other than that, that is the lesson for today. Now go ahead and make sure that you look at the activity that you're supposed to be doing for your participation grade and make sure you post in the attendance. The attendance, go back if you have any questions. There's some rules in it. You can email me. You can do any of that. But it's basically this week I'm just asking you, what form of communication do you use best or do you use often? And do you feel like that is normal for your culture and your age and everything around you? Okay? And then the participation is I'm asking you to use the communication process. Actually reflect on it when you talk with someone. It could be a friend, a mom, a parent, whoever. Go and reflect on it. You will write a paper, upload it into the Dropbox, and then submit it, and that's your grade. That's 30 easy points right there, okay? Throughout the semester, we'll have different videos weekly. Every time we'll have discussion posts and all of that. I will always have these videos and the PowerPoints where you can always see it, but the Dropboxes, the participation grades, and the attendance grades will actually close where you can no longer see them after Friday at 5 p.m. Again, that's Friday, 5 p.m. Make sure you have everything submitted each week, okay? But all of this will always stay open. If you have any questions, email me. Do not do my university email. Do my Gmail. I have that on my phone, and I'm able to actually see all of that. If you have any questions, let me know, or you can just rewatch this video. You have a good day.